A man stands on the jagged volcanic rock of a prison island in the Aegean Sea, staring into a torn sky. It floats around social media algorithms, gets weaponized by fringe movements, and gets printed on religious pamphlets handed out at bus stops. John is watching the Ezekiel vision play out on a cosmic scale. The 144,000 are being drafted into a military formation, but they are not handed iron weapons. They are not given bronze armor. Their only defense against the unraveling of the world is the name of the Father pressed into their minds. The seal is not a physical barrier. It is an identity claim. But when you actually read the roster of this vast, sealed army, in Revelation chapter 7, the math takes another strange turn. John lists out the 12 tribes receiving the mark: Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher. But if you know your Old Testament history, you will quickly realize that the list John writes down is wrong. When you read the 12 tribes listed in Revelation 7, the math is 12 times 12, but the names have been altered. Judah is listed first. Reuben is pushed down. Dan is completely erased. In the book of Judges, the tribe of Dan was the first to drag Israel into systemic idolatry. They set up carved images. They brought poison into the camp. So, in the final numbering of the cosmic army, Dan is gone. Joseph takes the place of Ephraim. Judah is moved to the very front of the line, completely ignoring birth order, because the Lion of the tribe of Judah is leading the march. This is not a biological registry. It is a theological restructuring. 7 chapters later, this same numbered army appears again. Most people assume it is a quota. They read it as a terrifying mathematical cap on salvation, a velvet rope outside of eternity. John sees them in Revelation 14. They are standing on Mount Zion. The Lamb stands with them. The name of the Father is still pressed into the skin of their foreheads. A sound erupts from heaven like roaring water. It crashes like heavy thunder. Harpists strike their strings. The 144,000 sing a new song before the throne. It is a song only they can learn. Then John gives their qualifications. He says they have not defiled themselves with women. He says they are chaste. He says they follow the Lamb wherever he goes. He says no lie was found in their mouths. Modern readers look at this and get confused. They picture celibate monks. They picture an impossible standard of moral perfection. They assume the final army is only for people who never made a mistake. But John is using ancient military vocabulary. Before an Israelite army marched into holy war in the Old Testament, the soldiers consecrated themselves. They left their homes. They abstained from normal civilian life and marital relations. They separated themselves entirely from the comforts of the world to prepare for battle. John is applying this exact ancient battle readiness to the first century church. The purity here is not about biological virginity. It is about spiritual fidelity. These are the people who refuse to climb into bed with the Empire of Rome. They refuse to burn incense to the emperor's statue. They refuse to speak the lie that Caesar is Lord, where only a tiny, exclusive fraction of humanity gets to walk through. While the billions of others are left in the dark, they kept their mouths clean of the empire's propaganda. They took the economic hit. They bled for their allegiance. The 144,000 are not a caste of flawless super saints. They are a battered, uncompromising resistance movement. They are the ones who follow the slaughtered lamb through the teeth of a beastly empire. But John is holding back his most brilliant literary move. He has set up a massive expectation. He has heard the military census. He has heard the numbered roll call of the 12 tribes. He has heard the 144,000 preparing for war. But look closely at the text of chapter 7. John hears the number, but he does not look at them yet. And when he finally turns around to see this massive, elite Jewish infantry, what he actually sees changes the entire trajectory of the Bible. John stands on the jagged volcanic stone of Patmos. The list of the 12 tribes stops echoing. The number 144 000 hangs in the breathless air like a battle cry. He has heard the roll call. He has heard the ancient census of the ultimate Jewish army. Now, he turns to look at them. This is the most critical pattern in the entire book of Revelation. John repeatedly uses an audio-visual technique to bend your expectations. It is treated like a seating chart for an exclusive club. And if that is true, the Bible ends with a God who is incredibly stingy. What he hears is always a symbol from the Old Testament. But what he sees when he turns around is how Jesus has actually fulfilled it. It happens 2 chapters earlier. In Revelation chapter 5, John is weeping because no one is worthy to open the heavy scroll of human history. An elder tells him to stop crying, because the Lion of the tribe of Judah has conquered. John hears the promise of a fierce, warrant, militaristic king. He turns to look at this apex predator. He sees a lamb, standing as though it had been slaughtered. The lion is the lamb. They are not 2 different animals. They are 2 realities of the exact same Savior. The expectation was a roaring lion. The reality was a bleeding sacrifice. Now, in chapter 7, John uses the exact same literary device. He hears the 144, Ling. He hears the strict, mathematical, tribal census of Israel, preparing for holy war. But when he physically turns his head to look at this army, the borders of Israel shatter. He does not see a Jewish infantry. He sees a great multitude that no one could number. He looks at the crowd and realizes they are not just from Judah and Reuben and Gad. But if you step back from the modern anxiety and look at the Hebrew matrix, John's mind was actually operating in, they are from every nation. They are from all tribes and peoples and languages. They are not wearing bronze armor. They are wearing pure white robes. They are not holding iron swords. They are holding green palm branches in their hands. The 144, 000, and the great multitude are not 2 different groups of people. They are the exact same group, viewed from 2 different angles. When you hear about the church from the perspective of heaven's architecture, you get the 144, Ling, a perfect, structurally complete, numbered army marching through the wilderness of history. But when you see the church on the ground, standing before the throne, it is a chaotic, beautiful, unnumberable explosion of human diversity. The velvet rope drops. The quota vanishes. The number is not a locked door keeping the billions out. It is a guarantee that the uncountable multitude is perfectly protected. Every single person from every nation who follows the Lamb through the empire is part of the 144. Ling. They are the infantry. They are the ones walking into the chaos of the world with the seal of the Father pressed into their skin. But that mark is not made of visible ink. And the way it gets placed on you has nothing to do with standing in a literal line. You cannot see the seal when you look in the mirror. You cannot reach up and feel raised wax or dried ink on the skin of your forehead. You start to see something the quota reading completely misses. The number 144, 000, is not a maximum capacity. It is a battle formation. But here's the part of this vision I keep coming back to. The mark in Ezekiel's prophecy, the ancient cross of the Tav, drawn in the inkhorn, was not given to the religious elites who had all the right theology. It was not given to the powerful. It was given specifically to the people who were weeping. The man in white linen walked through the crowded streets of Jerusalem looking for the men and women who grieved over the corruption, the violence, and the spiritual decay of their home. They did not have the political power to fix the city. They did not have the weapons to overthrow the corrupt leaders. They simply refused to become numb to the brokenness. Their grief was the proof of their allegiance. When John sees the 144, 000, standing with the Lamb, he is looking at that exact same kind of quiet, fierce resistance. He is not just recording a distant, futuristic event completely disconnected from your daily life. He is diagnosing the reality you are walking through today. If you are in a season where it feels exhausting to hold on to your faith, where the empires of our modern moment are constantly demanding your anxiety, your outrage, and your ultimate loyalty, This vision was recorded for you. You wake up and scroll through a digital landscape that feeds on anger. You walk into a workplace that asks you to bend your ethics just a fraction of an inch to hit a quarterly target. To feel the weight of what John is actually experiencing in this vision, you cannot start in the book of Revelation. You feel the immense, crushing pressure to align your soul with a political faction just to feel safe in a chaotic, unpredictable world. The empire always asks for a pinch of incense. It always demands that you bow, just a little bit, to the idols of security and success. And when you refuse, it costs you something. You feel the isolation. You feel the weight of the wilderness. But that weight is not a symptom of your failure. It is the friction of the seal. It is the proof that you have not defiled yourself with the systems of a beastly empire. It is the evidence that your mind has been marked by the slaughtered lamb. The Greek word sphragizo means the king has claimed you. And because you belong to him, you will inevitably clash with the kingdom of the air. If you are in a season where God feels more like an abstract concept than a protective presence, the census of numbers and the roster of Revelation are meant to be an anchor. They remind you that you are not wandering aimlessly. The 144,000 are defined as those who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. And sometimes he walks straight into the desert. Sometimes he leads you right into the teeth of the empire. You might feel surrounded by the chaos, standing in the blast radius of a culture tearing itself apart, wondering if the winds of destruction are about to blow. You cannot start with modern eschatology or Greek math. You have to go back 1,400 years to the burning sands of the Sinai Peninsula. But the angel is still standing at the corner of the earth, shouting to hold the winds back. You are part of the numbering. You are walking in the ranks of the Elephim, the spiritual infantry, navigating the dry dirt of the desert, trusting that the God who split seas is still leading the column. The census is still being taken, not to restrict the numbers, but to assure you that you are known, you are counted, and you are held. And when you finally step back and look at the entire scope of this number, from the ancient sands of the Sinai Peninsula to the volcanic rock of Patmos, a massive, singular pattern begins to emerge across the centuries. The dust settles over the camp in the Sinai wilderness. The 12 tribes stand in their perfect square formation around the tabernacle. The numbering is complete. The ancient army of God is ready to move into the unknown. A census was taken in the burning desert, and a mob of fleeing slaves became a structured military force. A Hebrew word for 1,000 was written on a scroll, and a mathematical impossibility became a battle formation. A man in white linen walked through the streets of a dying Jerusalem, and a cross of ink protected the grieving. An exiled prophet heard the terrifying roll call of 12 tribes, where a newly freed nation of slaves is about to take a census. You have to look at the dust rising from and the ultimate Jewish infantry prepared to march. An ancient army consecrated themselves for holy war, and a battered church refused to bow to a beastly empire. A man on a prison island turned his head to see the ranks, and the strict borders of a nation shattered into a global multitude. A quota of 144,000 was announced, and a crowd that no one could number walked through the open door. Same number, same God. But maybe the part that stays with me most is the inkhorn in Ezekiel's vision. The mark of the Tav, not a sword, not a shield, an ancient cross pressed into the skin of the forehead. And it was not given to the religious elites who held the political power. It was given exclusively to those who wept over the brokenness of their city, the ones whose only defense against the chaos was their refusal to become numb to it. If you are in a season where you feel completely unequipped for the battles around you, where the empire is loud and your strength is failing, this is where you stand. The Lamb does not ask you to pick up an iron sword. He does not ask you to force the kingdom of heaven into existence through political power or cultural dominance. He asks you to remain faithful. Desert floor. You have to look at how they arrange their tents, because the secret to the number that terrifies He asks you to keep your mind marked by his name, to grieve what is broken, and to follow him through the desert. If this opens something up for you, subscribe and leave a comment. Even one word helps. Share this with someone who feels exhausted by the chaos of this current empire. Pray for us as we keep digging into these ancient texts. And may the God who has never once lost a single member of his multitude walk with you through your wilderness and bring you safely into the city where the winds of destruction can never reach. The wind off the water is harsh, carrying the smell of salt and sulfur. He is an exile, an old man who has lived long enough. So many people today is hiding in plain sight. Buried in an Old Testament scroll, most people skip entirely. We are a species obsessed with ledgers, staring at the black ink of bank statements and holding calculators in our palms to quantify the infinite. When we read a historical document, we expect a literal head count. If an ancient text says 144,000, our modern, post-Enlightenment brains immediately picture a velvet rope outside a nightclub, with a bouncer clicking a metal counter exactly that many times before shutting the heavy door. We assume it is a quota. We think in terms of scarcity, of limited seating, of a cosmic lifeboat with a strict maximum capacity. But John is not writing a spreadsheet. He is writing Jewish apocalyptic literature, a genre that uses numbers the way a painter uses color. In the first century Hebrew imagination, numbers are not just cold data points used to manage inventory or calculate tax brackets. They are theological architecture. They carry weight, texture, and meaning far beyond their mathematical value. You do not just count them. You read them. Think about the number 12. In the biblical matrix, 12 is the bedrock number of cosmic order and divine government. You have the 12 tribes of Israel setting up their heavy woven tents in the dust of the ancient Near East. You have the 12 apostles walking the dirt roads of the Galilee to watch every one of his friends be executed by the Roman state. And then, suddenly, the wind stops. 12 represents the people of God, fully established, structurally complete, standing exactly where they have been placed by a sovereign hand. When you take the 12 tribes of the Old Covenant and multiply them by the 12 apostles of the New Covenant, you get 144. It is the collision of the ancient past and the immediate present. It is the total amplification of divine order. Then, you multiply that number by 1,000. In apocalyptic texts, 1,000 does not just mean the integer that follows 999. 1,000 represents ultimate, unmeasurable magnitude. It is the highest structural number the ancient mind reached for when describing something so vast it stretched beyond the physical horizon. When you put all of that together, the math begins to speak. The 144,000 is not a terrifying mathematical cap on salvation. It is the architectural blueprint of a completed family. It is John's way of looking at a persecuted, scattered, bleeding church in the first century and telling them that God has not lost a single person. Every stone is in the wall. Every member is accounted for. The structure is entirely, perfectly intact. But this number goes even deeper than cosmic math, carrying a specific, aggressive echo from the oldest layers of the Torah. Because to understand why John heard this specific number while the winds were held back, you have to look at what happened when the Israelites first. The text of Revelation chapter 7 says he sees 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds, walked out of Egyptian slavery. You have to step into the blinding heat of the Sinai desert and look at the terrifying precision of the very first census. Moses stands in the wilderness of Sinai. The air is thick with dust and heat. It is the first day of the 2nd month, a year since the sea split, a year since the chains fell off. God speaks to Moses from a tent made of heavy, woven animal skins. The command is simple. Take a census of the whole Israelite community. So the tribal leaders stand in the sun. They call the names. They line the people up in the dirt. They count by tribes. They count by clans. They count by fathers' houses. Reuben steps forward. Simeon steps forward. Judah steps forward. The dust rises as thousands of leather sandals shuffle across the desert floor. But God gives a very specific parameter for who gets their name written down on the parchment. He says to count every male 20 years old and upward. Everyone who is able to go to war. Look closely at what is happening here. They are not counting the children playing in the camp. They are not counting the women baking bread on heated stones. They are not counting the elders whose hands shake on their wooden staffs. This is not a civic head count. It is a military draft. Israel is no longer a mob of fleeing refugees. They are being organized into a fighting force. No wind blows on the land. No wind stirs the surface of the sea. No leaves move on the trees. Immediately after the head count, God tells them exactly where to pitch their tents. He gives them a structural blueprint for surviving the desert. Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun camp on the east. Reuben, Simeon, and Gad camp on the south. Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin camp on the west. Dan, Asher, and Naphtali camp on the north. 3 tribes on every side. Total, unbending symmetry. A perfect square drawn in the unforgiving sand. And right in the center, flanked by the Levite priests, sits the fiery presence of God. It is a war camp. When John stands on the prison island of Patmos in Revelation 7, he hears the angel list out 12 tribes. He hears the number 144. Ling ling ling. To a first-century Jewish mind, this is not a guest list for a cosmic VIP room. It is a roll call. John is hearing the ancient echoes of Sinai. He is hearing the numbering of an end-times army preparing to march into the chaos of a broken world. But there is a detail hiding in the math of that original desert census. If you read the raw numbers in the English translation of Numbers chapter 1, the size of this desert army is staggering. It totals over 600,000 fighting men. Moving that many soldiers through a barren wilderness breaks the mind logistically. Historians and archaeologists have argued about it for centuries. But the problem is not the history. The problem is the translation. An unnatural, terrifying stillness falls over the entire world. Another angel rises from the east, holding something in his hand, because the specific Hebrew word used to count these men holds a secret that completely reframes both the wilderness wanderings and the book of Revelation. When you open an English Bible to the first chapter of Numbers, the logistics look mathematically impossible for the dry dirt of the Levant. The text tells us that the tribe of Reuben had 46,500 men, Simeon had 59,300. When you add all the tribes together, the translation insists there were over 600,000 fighting men, which would mean a total population of millions wandering through a barren, sun-scorched wilderness where water had to be struck from boulders just to keep them alive. But the problem disappears when you look at the original ink. The Hebrew word translated as thousand in this census is the word Eleph. It appears hundreds of times in the Old Testament, and its range of meaning is much wider and more textured than a simple mathematical integer. While it can mean the literal number 1,000, its root carries a very different primary meaning, depending on the context of the sentence. In ancient agrarian Israelite culture, an Eleph is a clan. It is an extended family group. And most importantly, in a wartime context, an Eleph is a specific military squad or unit, regardless of exactly how many individual men are in it. A seal, a royal senate. He shouts across the silence, commanding the 4 angels to hold the destruction back, to keep the earth. If this kind of historical context is changing the way you read these texts, you are exactly who this channel is for. Hit subscribe and leave a thought in the comments. Because every week we dig past the English translations to find the bedrock underneath. So, what happens when you read the desert census, not as math, but as military structure? When Gideon is hiding in a stone winepress in the book of Judges, arguing with an angel, he says, "My clan is the weakest in Manasseh." The word he uses for clan is Eleph. He is not saying his family has exactly 1,000 people. He is saying his tribal unit is the smallest and most vulnerable. When you apply this translation back to the book of Numbers, the text is not saying Reuben had 46, 100 men, It is likely saying Reuben had 46 Elephim, 46 military units, that contained 500 fighting men. That single root changes everything about the book of Revelation. When John hears the number 144, 000, echoing across the silent island of Patmos, he is not hearing a demographic headcount. He is hearing the roll call of 144 Elephim. He is hearing the ultimate, complete mobilization of God's people, structured as a divine military force, pulling its imagery straight from the wilderness wanderings, suspended in this vacuum, until a specific group of people is marked on their foreheads. And then, the old man hears, the 144. 000 is not a seating capacity for heaven. It is the full deployment of the army of God. But as you look closer at this army standing in the breathless silence, something is wrong. They have no iron swords in their hands. They carry no heavy wooden shields. Their only defense against the impending destruction is a seal pressed onto their foreheads. And to understand what that mark actually is, you have to look back at another prophet, standing in the ruins of a temple, watching a man dip his pen into an inkhorn. Ezekiel sits by the muddy banks of the Chebar Canal in Babylon, but his mind is pulled back to Jerusalem. The city is rotting from the inside. The sacred temple has been compromised. In a vision, God summons 6 executioners into the temple courtyard. Their sandals scrape against the stone. They hold heavy, brutal weapons of slaughter. The air is thick with the impending violence. But among them walks a 7th figure, completely different from the rest. He is clothed in pure white linen. He carries a writer's inkhorn at his side. He has no sword. He has no spear. He has only the ink. God tells this man in linen to walk through the crowded, chaotic streets of Jerusalem. He is not told to look for the religious elite. A number roll across the silence. 144,000. You have probably heard this number. He is not told to look for the wealthy. He is told to listen for weeping. He is to find the people who are grieving over the corruption, the ones whose hearts are broken by the brokenness of their city. And when he finds them, he dips his pen. He presses the dark ink into the skin of their foreheads. He marks them with the final letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the Tav, and in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew script of Ezekiel's day, the letter Tav was drawn as 2 intersecting wooden lines. It was a cross. When the executioners are unleashed, they are commanded to bypass anyone with this mark on their skin. The ink is their only defense. The mark is not a magic talisman. It is a signature of ownership. It declares to the forces of chaos that the person wearing it belongs to the sorrow of God, and they cannot be touched. This is exactly the scene John is watching unfold on the island of Patmos. The 4 winds of destruction are held back. The angel rises from the east, holding the seal of the living God. The Greek word John uses for this seal is sphragizo. It means to stamp a document with hot wax and a king's signet ring, securing it so tightly that it cannot be tampered with. It means to brand an animal or a slave so that everyone who looks at them knows exactly who their master is.